Five, four, three, two.
We back, we back, we back.
Yeah. And we back, and we back, and we back, and we back, and we back. Yeah! Thinking Out Loud Podcast. It's your boy Jay Lip, TOLPcast.com. You know who I am, and you know what this is. Facebook Live, Tuesday, Talk That Talk. It used to be what it was, but now it's something greater. And with that being said, we got the big homie in the building, the brother, the big bro, the god, the king, the young man who represents all that is greatness in this world. Keith in the motherfucking building. Keith, make some noise, baby.
Nah, what's good?
So, Keith, how you feeling, bro?
Feeling good. Feeling a little bit nervous about what we're about to talk about.
Don't feel nervous, baby. It is what it is. It's truth, right? You about to speak truth
Absolutely.
to power, so let's just jump straight into the shits. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, I want to make sure I want to thank everybody who's came through, who's listened, who's watched, viewed, participated, liked, commented. Appreciate you. This is episode 81. I keep telling y'all on our 100th episode, we got something you ain't even gonna believe. But until then, just enjoy the mediocrity that we have with the guest tonight. So, with Keith in the building, first and foremost, this is my bro from Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, stand up.
Oh wait.
I ain't doing that shit, but regardless, representing Go Green in the building, I got Keith. And Keith, I want to tell people first and foremost, you are an elder of mine. We are not too far apart as far as years are concerned, but you definitely have a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking your time this evening, spend a couple brief moments with us to drop some gems. So, let me get my dustpan. Drop the bomb for that. Let me grab the actual broom. A bomb for that. Okay, I got all my tools. So let's get to it. We went to an event recently that we had a beautiful opportunity to have a conversation. I felt like it was worth sharing with the world. And with the world, I mean by however many people gonna be watching this shit tonight on YouTube and iTunes and SoundCloud and all the other shit. But regardless, let's have that conversation one more again in a greater level of detail. You and I both worked at the same company at one point. We don't name names because I don't really need that type of energy. So
Right.
we worked at a certain company together. We did our thing. We became friends. We became brethren. It was all good. You decided to be selfish and leave for the betterment of your life and your family. You left me behind. I ain't mad at you no more, but I forgive you because God gives us grace. However, with that being said, let the people know a little bit about you before we dive into these topics so they can get a perspective on where this information is going to be coming from. So go.
So I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I am the youngest of three um, brother and sister. Grew up in a two-parent household. My mother is a business owner, and my dad was just a blue collar worker. Did some time in the military. Got out, went to college, got my bachelor's, eventually got my MBA, and I work for what people would consider to be a reputable company um, or corporation or whatever you call
Now,
it.
you used the big word reputable. What do you mean by that? For the as D.O. Hughley would say, for the GED section, what does reputable mean?
Um, they have a good reputation.
Okay.
When normally when you say like certain business entities, like if you say McDonald's, they're respected at least among the business community. Maybe not the health conscious people, but the company I work for will be considered reputable.
Okay. Okay. So we worked. Is this the same company we worked for, or is this something before me?
Well, both of them. It's
Okay.
the
We don't.
company I work
No
with.
names. No
I'm
names.
not naming, but the company we work together at would be considered that, and also the current place that I work at.
Okay. Cool. So I hear the word work a lot, and so that kind of transitions into the main topic. And before we get there, till we get back to the point of working, You gonna tell them about the Golden Gloves? You gonna tell them about the boxing? I mean, what's good? They see you with the locks. They know you've been through some shit. So what's really good?
Well, I used to box a little bit. I was an Olympic alternate in 2004 at these games. I didn't want to box for a career because I didn't want to take that type of punishment.
Mm,
Not that I was a more of a
a
slick
scrub,
fighter
right?
who took less punishment, but ultimately you don't box for 10 plus years and escape unharmed mentally. So I
Got you.
seen people that I boxed with, uh, have a lot of issues, and so I decided at that time that I did find another way, and so that's what led me to college.
Okay, so speaking of college, where did you go?
Ohio State for my bachelor's, and I went to local college, Franklin University, for my MBA.
Okay, so you're a knowledgeable person, or you're a learned man, as they like to call it. You have the collegiate experience of American culture, correct?
Absolutely,
Okay, and I'm going to help people understand how interesting it is that you've come to some of the facts and some of the jewels that you're going to drop on us tonight, because you went through the institutions that teach you what American education is, and then I believe you came across your own education in real life, in your own experiences, not only by yourself but with your beautiful wife, your beautiful family. You're a married man, you got kids, you're doing your thing. Is all this true?
absolutely.
And with that being said, let's get to the shits.
My nigga.
My nigga, let's get it. So, we had a conversation. Conversation was, Keith, what's going on with you, bro? Man, just about to do my own thing, man. Self sufficiency. That's the move. I say self sufficiency. What the fuck is that? Self sufficiency? Like you ain't clocking in and clocking out? He's like, yeah, I'm doing it for now, but the plan is to escape the corporate plantation. And with that being said, I want to start off with that sentiment. Do you believe that there is a such thing as a corporate plantation?
Well, absolutely. I think to start to understand how the corporations work, you first have to understand the education system. And the education system is 100% built around um, giving inflated egos and knowledge that does not necessarily lead to self sufficiency. And so, especially Black people, we don't control our food. We don't control our um, food supply. We don't know where our food has come from. We can't dress ourselves, even if you gave us all the materials to dress ourselves. And we're not builders like we once were, where we can build structures. And that in itself is self sufficiency. So the college system teaches you how to operate within the confinement of a corporation. And so
Mm.
you're basically taught skills that don't necessarily translate to surviving when you're not working for someone else. And
Ooh,
so
ooh.
to use the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said ooh. I just ooh. That. So you basically is saying that college ain't shit.
There are some benefits to college.
I like that moonwalk. It's
And
not smooth.
well, I'll tell you what those benefits are, at least from my perspective. And I think those benefits are, you stay at long hours to learn information, so you show diligence. Some people are in college for 10 years, that shows patience and perseverance. So there's a lot, and then there is some good information. I would suggest that there's some degrees that are more usable than others, engineering being one of them. But I think there are a lot of degrees out there that really lead nowhere, but more so an inflated ego. And I'll speak to one, and I think the physician classically, the healer of us, basically prescribes drugs that the pharmaceutical rep that represents the pharmaceutical company tells him about. So
Now, when,
doctors
now
are
when
not
you
even as
say,
knowledgeable.
I just want to, I apologize for interrupting. So
No, go ahead.
when you say the healers of us, you mean the doctors, correct?
Well, the society has given them that title of the healers. The mother is the first healer, but yes, when I say healers, I'm referring to doctors and their responsibility to ensure that the population that they're serving is healthy and they have the right information to eat the right things and to treat themselves without using drugs, which inherently come with a host of more side effects, which ultimately makes the human organism weaker.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Hold on. Let me give you a one of Clue's bombs for that. Drop a bomb on that. I appreciate you getting yourself reset because you was getting mighty close to the microphone, but now you're
Okay.
perfect. Now you're perfect.
All
So,
right.
side note, man, if y'all can see your boy Lip, he growing his hair out. I'm trying to get like the brother Keith, the God Keith, the King Keith. He got that shit. Hang time is on heavy, but it's gonna take me about another. How long did it take you to grow that out?
About 10 years.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see how long I can last. I'm about 9 months in. Regardless, back to the point.
Perseverance.
Persevering, and we just talked. God damn, another bomb. So, with that being said, we talked about the education system, and you talked about there were some benefits, and it sounded like what you were saying is there are some benefits based off the traits that going to a university can teach you. Not necessarily what they teach you at the university, but the skill sets that you learn from trying to survive in that atmosphere. If I'm correct, you also said that that translates into how you can best conform to the corporate environment. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's expound on that. So I'm going to let you cook up. So take us there. Where do we get from the collegiate experience to where we at as far as our opportunities as individuals go?
Are you referring more so to personal goals and what an individual would like to do for themselves? Or are you referring to
No, holistically, kind of looking at it from if you were speaking to me like you're speaking to all the people who are listening or watching right now, you're speaking to, obviously, I'm going to defend the collegiate perspective, of course, because I'm the antagonist of the show. But
uh,
regardless, I want to hear from you as you keep going down that train of thought, which I did interrupt. That train of thought of here's what you learn as far as skill sets from going to a university, but, and then you continue from there. So, uh, take us down that path of how you came to your way of thinking as far as why college or universities are or are not necessary for success in this life and in America specifically.
well, okay. So as we spoke about, I have my bachelor's degree and I have my master's degree. I got my master's degree, I think, in 2013. And so I'm sitting here with degrees that most people don't have, yet I couldn't grow food because I didn't know how, couldn't build anything because I didn't know how, didn't understand how water, energy worked. I mean, these are day to day things. Healing, your children are going to fall, they're going to bump, they're going to get hurt. How do you heal them? And so these things are not even taught to you. You go to a university, you don't even learn how to invest properly in a university. A lot of the people who are moving houses, operating in day traders, the stock market, they have to learn that stuff exogenously outside of college. And so, what you end up with is taking a million children who are bright and ready to take over the world, and then you teach them what you want to teach them, and you tell them that they're superior to those who didn't go to college, get them to believe that, and then they put more onus on the degree than they do actually do what they can physically do. So you have a degree, what can you do? A lot of them can only interview for a job and then work for somebody else counting beans. And so, a part of my job takes me, pretty much around the state, and I get to see the Amish. And the Amish are what we would call less educated than, someone who lives in a city. Yet they do everything for themselves. Most all of them are millionaires. They own acres and acres and acres of land, but they're uneducated. Yet they can operate without the education system. A person who operates in the education system can only be successful financially if they are working for a corporation or for someone else. Now, I mean, now I want to add one caveat to that. You do have where you have entrepreneurs, but a lot of entrepreneurs get most of their skills outside of school. It's generational information that is passed down. And so before I actually had a topic that I wanted to talk about, but I want to segue from that.
No,
Um,
we gonna get to it. Go
right,
ahead.
right. Um, I'll say this: the black culture, we go to school, we push our daughters to college more so than we do our sons. And so they go to college, and then they learn to work for other people. They don't own businesses. As a group, we don't own a lot of businesses. When you look at the ratio of people to business owned, we are not doing well. And so you have this education that makes forces you to work for someone else, and you can't pass that education down necessarily. You can pass a business down. And so what we end up with is every generation starts from scratch, and our first opportunity for success starts in the college. Whereas you have the Chinese, the Africans, you have other cultures out there who establish businesses and pass businesses down, and real estate and residential properties, stuff that you can actually jump into and have a start on. And so the college criteria is flawed, for every race, but specifically the black race, because we have to be less dependent on other systems and start creating our own. And to learn how to build those systems, you actually part of my job is to go out and look at systems. And I look at systems and I see inherently how they operate. These are things that are not taught in school. The theory of them might be taught in school, but a lot of the hardcore moving and shaking is done by knowing a guy.
You know what? I appreciate you sharing that last fact. Most importantly, because there's a phrase, there's a good old boy system, right? So in a lot of corporate American type of environments, there is the good old boy system where it's it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. But then if I take that
Absolutely.
back to what you said earlier about education, I'd like to break down the construct of education when it comes to our culture, because education isn't exclusively and explicitly from a university or a state college.
Absolutely.
Education should really be transcendent to the word or synonymous with knowledge. And knowledge is what can take you to the next level when it comes to what you consider success and the achievements that you make to reach that goal. So when we talk about education, it's commonplace in America to talk about, you go to a Big Ten university, you come out, you make your six-figure salary, you pay your student debts off, or if you ain't even have them, if you're from the predominant culture, maybe your college is already paid for, and you come out, you make your six figures, and you live life in this beautiful white picket fence, two dogs and a cat with a couple kids. Now, my issue is that's a pipe dream, and not even a pipe dream, but that's a pipe lie, because that's not everybody's dream. I don't need a white picket fence personally. I don't need two dogs and a cat, nor a couple kids. A wife would be cool, which I have. Shout out to Mrs. Lip. Congratulations for not being on the podcast tonight. I appreciate you for dodging and curving your boy. But regardless, I want to say that, Keith, how do you feel about the discrepancy between, or really the disparity between knowledge and education? Like, how do you view that? Because I know that you are a man of knowledge. And the reason why I know this, as my brother, I know that you study. You study hard, you study long. Pause. However, with all that being said, it's not necessarily about education or educating yourself. It's about making yourself more knowledgeable. So speak to that for me briefly, so people can understand the difference between education and knowledge. Because education you may not be able to find on a YouTube video, but the knowledge of how to change your brakes, how to do an oil change, how to lay a deck down in your backyard, how to build a house, how to lay carpentry, all of that shit is knowledge, not necessarily American academic education. So go.
Right. I would say first that when you look at the education system, just like I described before, it's geared more towards teaching you how to work for someone else.
And can I also interrupt you real quick? And I hate to do this because I do it all the time, but you
Okay.
know what that sounds like to me? Synonymous. Synonymously, it kind of sounds a little bit slaverish, and I hate to say it. I hate to say it. I'm gonna give myself a boo because I use the S word, and it makes people sensitive and uncomfortable. But From what you just said, the system teaches you basically how to be docile and conform to the standards in which you are given to survive. However, it does not give you the tools and the knowledge to build to overcome the said adversity of that societal limitations. Am I correct?
You're 100% correct.
So I'm
I
gonna let
just
you
want
cook up.
I want people to just consider this. As humans, we have basic needs, and so it gets cold in the winter, you'll die, so you need a house. You need clothes to put on your
Amen.
body.
Amen.
You need a way to manipulate energy, i.e., it could be fire, electricity. You have to have water. These are some of the basic things that we need. Yet, how many people watching um, can successfully have their own water system and it be maintained? How many people can go out and build a house from scratch? Just build the house. How many people can make their own clothes? Not a lot of people can do those things, or even at high levels. So,
Yeah, very few, because that's not a part of the American educational system.
absolutely, and that's the point that I'm making is that the education system teaches you math. That's good. We should know math, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but math is extremely beneficial. But when you start getting into theories where you have um, numbers and values that really are more descriptive in nature, it goes off into fantasy land. But
Don't worry about the
go ahead.
tangent. We got about 9 minutes, so go ahead and cook up, bro. Cook up, cook up.
Well, so ultimately, what I'm saying is we basically you have to be able to control your we don't control our basic food supply. So if everything stopped right now, if there was a bomb that hit and all houses were blown up and we had to find a new way to eat, a new way to drink, there'd be millions of people dying. And then the fact that you got so many people dying will cause more people to die. I mean, that's where we're at as a society right now. The average person can't do anything. They're not functional outside, and but they may have an education. They may have a bachelor's degree from Boston University. Yet when you ask them to do something, they can't do it. Now, what they can do is they can organize a group. They can talk about the Kaizen method, 5S systems, quality systems, but those things are created terms. In the real world, we don't need to speak about quality systems. We need to speak about how can you clean water? How can you perform some of the most basic functions of the human body? How can you heal? Do you know which plants provide which nourishment for which parts of the body? The average person doesn't understand that,
You
but
know
there's a
what?
lot of educated people.
You know what? Let me ask you a question because of what you just said. What benefits a man more living in Flint, Michigan during the water crisis? The ability, or rather, the fact that he has a graduate degree in biochemistry from the University of Michigan, or the knowledge that you're sharing right now with how to survive?
It's a rhetorical question, obviously. So when if you can clean your water, though, those people and they still have an issue in Flint. So
No, and
we
I'm not
all
taking away from that, and I'm not
no,
you.
right. I know
Yeah,
what you mean. But yeah, the guy who's more valuable right now in Flint, the guy who can pump out hundreds of gallons of water clean, or the doctor who can treat the sick people who come in from the water.
ooh,
It's a
ooh.
rhetorical question, and so um, and that's the thing is also when we talk about the term education. Usually, if you go to the average person and you start speaking about education, they don't think in terms of knowledge. They think in terms of what degree do you have? What's your GPA? Um, when you got out of college, did you get a job? What kind of benefits come with that job? So it's really a backwards existence that we're living.
Let me ask you a
Fundamentally.
devil's advocate question because I know my big bro Levi is gonna be mad at me if I don't say this, but what do you say about the people who feel like college education, post secondary education, university, college, trade, whatever, those people who have those degrees and they say that that was my ticket to ride, that was my ability to get into a corporate atmosphere or even an atmosphere where I can make an hourly wage to support my family, If they hear
Yeah.
this and they say, you know what, Keith, you kind of shitting on us, like we made a bad decision, what do you say to those people? Because there is a certain tone in this conversation, which is basically you could have did it a different way and you didn't. And because of what you know as your knowledge versus them as their education, you may be better prepared for life than they are, no matter what life throws at you. So, what do you say to those, especially those young black men and women who say, you know what, I graduated from Howard, I graduated from myself, Michigan State, with a degree in packaging engineering. Like, I'm making my money, and I'm speaking to you now as the antagonist. I made my money over the past 8 years working at a company where I was compensated for my ability based off of what's on paper as my degree as a packaging engineer. How do you tell me that what I did was wrong or how what you're doing is better than the choice I made go?
So remember, we're speaking in terms of the education system that lacks. Um,
Correct, correct.
so if someone has the ability to survive the education system like I did, and I still lacked, I was able to get a job and make a lot more money than a lot of people who probably had some of the skills that I referred to earlier. However, those people are still much more valuable and they can operate outside of the system of college. Now, what I would say to the person with a degree, you have the opportunity to make money in this system. So make money, but do not forget that you have the ability now, more so than someone who's poor, to go out and learn those things. And I'll use myself as an example. I've studied electricity. I've studied how energy moves. I've studied how water works. I taught myself how to build. And before all of those things, I was teaching myself to be more of a healer. And so I've spent a lot of time studying scientific books, papers, but more so a lot of scientists that most people don't understand. So I was able to leverage my college degree to get some of the basic functions that you have. Now, I still lack, I can't make clothes, but guess what's next?
Ooh, ooh, tell them what's next. Go ahead, whisper it. Go ahead, tell them.
Clothes.
Ah, drop one of the clues bombs for that.
But let me say this. Um, the reason we're having this conversation is because every idea that I presented is something that I believe in. I currently still do work for corporate regulatory America, but I'm definitely on my way out. I've already, kind of started the process. And the idea is that make money for yourself. Learn functional skills, whether it be in college or whether it be outside of college. Learn functional skills so that so you have something to pass down to your generation. And I don't mean that in a generic fashion. I mean it. If you teach your children how to build a house, they'll know how to build a house, whether they have education or not. If you teach them how to clean their water, if you teach them how to work electrical systems, they'll be valuable without the education system. In this society, if you're not successful in the education system because you lack the general knowledge base of food, shelter, clothing, guess what? You're the guy who's asking for people, asking for money on the streets. And it's a sad reality, but a lot of us are operating within that paradigm where the struggle is to get to college, and if you don't make it to college, it means you're not successful, and
Yeah, it
that's
means you're a
absolutely
failure.
bogus.
Yeah, I think that's
It,
bogus as well.
it's extremely bogus. I know a lot of people who don't have degrees who I respect their minds much more so than I do many people who don't have degrees or who do have degrees.
Keith, I let you cook up a lot today. I'm gonna need you to publicly commit to doing a part two on this conversation next Tuesday. Can I get that from you?
Absolutely. Next Tuesday might be a very new Tuesday for me.
But
I'll probably, but I guess we can talk about that then. I'll say this: separating yourself from corporate America is not an easy thing. A lot of us we grow up, and that's the only idea that they push. And this idea of coming out of it, working for yourself, being successful for yourself, living your own dreams, is something that um, is extremely fearful to do. But fear is there to prepare you. Because I'm extremely fearful of doing it, I'm doing a lot of preparation to ensure that I'm successful. I have a family that I got to take care of, and I have people that count on me. So, again, you I promote the separation of corporate America, especially for the black man and black woman, so that we are able to produce for ourselves, to teach knowledgeable skills to ourselves, and then we can go in their universities, learn the things that they know, and we can continue to move up in this society
Yep.
until we have other options.
And I feel like also too, maybe with that knowledge, again, that knowledge, we can start to restructure and reframe what education is to our culture. So we can
Ab-
stop pushing our young, impressionable children and youth into basically saying you going to big state or little state. When you going to college or the army, like there's more out there to learn than there is what's being provided as far as opportunities based on those who we've been indoctrinated to trust. And so, with that being said, again, my bro, there's a whole nother part of this conversation that I did not get to within the time allotted, which is the
right.
escape. I need to know about how do you escape. So I'm going to give you a week to put those thoughts together, and I'm going to hit you back on Tuesday next week, and I'm going to say, bro, are we good? And you're going to say, nah, cause my baby girl and wifey and this, that, and the third. But that's your fault. You made all them kids, so don't put that on us. You was selfish. You wanted a big family of beautiful young black children and a beautiful black wife and this beauty that I feel like is the cultural revolution. So with that being said, I'm being facetious, but can you please come back? Maybe not next week, but at some point it will be next week actually, because I won't give you the codes to what you need until I get this second part. So do
Right.
you can I get you, can we get you on? Because the people want to know.
Absolutely.
All right then. With
Yeah.
that being said, we didn't talk about the escape. We're just gonna call this escape part one, or really the mentality shift, because I feel like the big bro Keith really showed us how we can change the paradigm of our mental before we can start to grasp the ideas of self righteousness when it comes to getting ourselves out of that mental imprisonment and that mental facade of you got to do X, Y, and Z to get A, B, or C. And it's not reality. Reality is so much greater. This world is so much greater, and I think that Keith is a perfect example of that. Keith, I know we're over time, but real quick, if you could just tell them in very quick outro words what it is that you want them to remember from this conversation. Go.
It's very important that you have the ability to drink clean water, wear clothes that you made or know how to make, and build a house. Um, I think those are the most essential skill sets that you can have in this current state.
And do you know how to do that?
I can't make clothes yet,
But did you
but I
learn?
can build a house.
Okay, so you can build a house. You can feed your family. You can,
Absolutely.
okay, and you can create clean drinking water.
Absolutely.
Shit, we could run around naked if we got to, but if you can just survive, you don't need clothes to survive. Also, want to give you an opportunity to plug anything that you got going on that you want people to know about. And it's your time, so you got 30 seconds. Go.
I will say that I don't want to give too much away
I knew you wouldn't.
in
I
terms
knew
of.
you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't. Fuck it. So Keith is on some other shit, and as soon as his shit is done, he gonna share it with the world. That's all I'm gonna say. I done seen previews. Keith, can they follow you on Instagram? Where can they find you at?
I'm not on Instagram, but I will be. It's a part of the business. But just Facebook. Um,
Facebook, Keith, son of Keith.
absolutely.
And then real quick, what does that mean, Keith, son of Keith?
A lot of times you hear about in the Bible, they talk a lot about, sons are very important, that he's the son of God. And Keith, son of Keith is just what it is. My father birthed me, and he's much more of a God to me because he's one of the guys that was given to me. So
Amen.
Keith, son of Keith is important. It's spiritual.
All right, I respect it. Keith, son of Keith, my brother, man, love you, dog.
Love you
Appreciate
too,
you.
bro.
Hey,
Yeah.
Part two coming next week. If you don't know, you should know already. This man is doing great things, and he gonna help you do great things if you continue to listen. Open your mind, open your ears, open your hearts, and open your spirits. It's your boy Jay Lip, the boy Keith in the building, the man Keith, son of Keith, the God, the King. Thinking Out Loud Podcast, TOLPcast.com, and we out. Appreciate you, bro. Much love.
Oh, no doubt.
Let's get it in, baby. All
Hey,
right,
I'm ready.
let's do it.
See,
Peace.
yeah.